I am the white moonlight in a youth pain literature, the one who died early from a difficult childbirth for the male lead in the 3rd year after my death. He got married, the wedding cost over $1 billion, and he hired 10 monks to perform rites for me, his ex-girlfriend, wishing me an early ascent to paradise, so as not to delay his wedding night. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day he took me to elope. Xiaoxianya, blushing, pressed me against the wall. Ningning, come away. With me, I'd do anything for you. Looking at his face, still not shed of its youthful innocence, I smiled. Standing on tiptoe, I leaned close to his ear, my breath as fragrant as orchids. Sure, I'll go with you if you die. Consciousness slowly returned, the smell of rotting wood vanished, replaced by the scent of chalk dust, old book pages, and sunlight. I jerked my head up. A familiar classroom, desks piled with textbooks, and densely packed writing on the blackboard came into view. Beside me was a boy sleeping soundly with his arm under his head, his bright blonde hair especially eye-catching. Xiaoxianya, my heart seemed to be fiercely seized by a cold hand. It stopped for a split second, then began pounding wildly, striking my chest with a dull thud. I actually came back. I had returned to my senior year of high school. With less than a month left until the college entrance examination, my fingertips trembled slightly, and I instinctively looked around. The red slogan on the wall, "Strive for 100 days, and make Tsinghua and Peking University dreams come true," caught my eye. Taped to the corner of the desk was the daily plan I had made for myself, the handwriting neat and clear inside the pencil case. Marker pens of all colors were lined up with meticulous order. This was the 18-year-old Shen Ning, teacher's pick for Tsinghua and Peking University, the kind of child other parents envied. Well-behaved, sensible, and top of her class, and later, too. Shen Ning, who, for Xiaoxianya, ran away with him, lived in a rented apartment, willingly gave up everything, and in the end died a miserable death. And at the end of it all, he achieved fame and success, married someone else, and erased every trace of my existence without a trace. Ding-ling-ling, the class dismissal bell suddenly rang, jolting the people nearby awake. Xiaoxianya frowned and muttered under his breath, rubbing his groggy eyes as he lifted his head and, as always, looked at me first. Seeing me sitting there, pale-faced, he grinned, carrying the laziness of just waking up and a hint of roguishness, and reached out to pinch my cheek. "What's wrong, my top student? Is the problem too hard to solve?" I almost reflexively turned my head to dodge him. His hand froze in midair, the smile on his face also stiffened, and a trace of surprise and displeasure flashed in his eyes. "What? I can't even touch you now." I didn't speak, just let my fingertips glide over the thick physics competition workbook. Between its pages was hidden the love letter Xiaoxianya had given me not long ago. "The usual spot tonight," he said, not paying much mind to my evasiveness. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice, his tone laced with an excited, tempting allure. "I've got everything ready. The bus leaves first thing tomorrow morning. No one will find out, I promise." "Xiaoxianya," I cut him off, my voice a bit dry, but I tried hard to keep it steady. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to continue, his eyes sparkling as if he could already see the free future ahead. I took a deep breath, pulled the pink letter from the physics workbook, and, right in front of him, without a moment's hesitation, the pink stationery was torn cleanly in two, then folded again into fragments. I clenched them tightly in my palm, the sharp edges digging painfully into my skin. Xiaoxianya's smile instantly froze, his pupils contracting sharply as if witnessing something unbelievable. He suddenly grabbed my wrist with terrifying force, his voice rising sharply, filled with shock and the fury of being offended. "Shen Ning, are you insane? Do you have any fucking idea what you're doing?" The surrounding classmates were drawn by his shout, casting curious glances our way. "What's going on? Are Xiaoxianya and Shen Ning arguing?" What did Shen Ning tear up? "A love letter? That can't be." Shen Ning likes Xiaoxianya the most. Those whispers stabbed into my back like needles. My wrist hurt from how tightly he was gripping it, and that warmth reminded me of the time I drifted after death. I saw him carefully supporting that girl who looked 70% like me, the veins on the back of his hand and the tenderness in his eyes. The feeling of nausea surged up my throat again. I tried hard to pull my hand back, but his grip was ironclad. "Let go." I looked up at him, my voice turning cold. "You better fucking explain yourself to me first." His eyes were red with anger, not caring at all about the people staring at us. He suddenly yanked hard and dragged me straight up from my seat. "What do you mean? Are you messing with me? Didn't we agree on this? We said we'd leave together. What the hell is this now?" He was incredibly strong. Ignoring my struggle, he half-dragged, half-yanked me toward the corner at the back of the classroom where the cleaning supplies were piled, then slammed me hard against the cold wall with a dull thud. My back hit the wall so hard that even the bookshelf trembled. My back ached from the impact, but I didn't make a sound. He leaned in aggressively, trapping me in his shadow, his scorching anger blowing across my face. Shen Ning, he was practically growling, his teeth clenched so hard they clicked, fury surging in his eyes, along with a barely perceptible hint of panic from betrayal. Make yourself clear. What do you mean, you're not going? What am I to you? Were all those things you said before just bullshit? His voice was strained and hoarse, drawing even more attention from the people around us. I could feel the gazes coming from all directions, curious, probing, and eager to watch the spectacle. If it had been the old Shen Ning, she would probably have been so ashamed she would want to crawl under a rock by now, and would only have cried and begged him to speak more quietly. But now, I just looked at him coldly. I looked at that face full of hostility and confusion. In the cold, barren wasteland deep in my heart, a surge of utter mockery suddenly rose. I even let out a soft laugh. My ill-timed laugh startled Xiao Xianye for a moment. The force of his grip unconsciously loosened slightly, and his brows knotted tightly. What are you laughing at? I stopped laughing and met his bewildered, angry gaze. The sunlight shone from behind him, casting a halo over his blonde hair and lending it a faint tenderness. I stood on tiptoe, just as I usually did when I kissed him. The gesture made him freeze, a trace of bewildered anticipation flashing in his eyes. I leaned close to his ear and could smell the faint scent of tobacco and the warmth of sunlight on his body. Then, in a voice only the two of us could hear, I softly said, one word at a time, run away together. Sure. His body went rigid all at once, and disbelief gave way to a burst of ecstatic surprise in his eyes. But my next words came right after. If you die, I'll run away with you, too. Xiao Xinye's expression froze instantly, his pupils widening as if in disbelief. You want me to die, Shen Ning? He suddenly clenched my shoulders, his fingers pressing so hard they almost crushed my bones. His voice forced out from between his teeth, hoarse and terrifying. Fuck, say that again. Are you messing with me? The air around them seemed to have frozen. The classmates who had been whispering and watching the commotion were also stunned by this sudden turn of events. One by one, they held their breath and didn't dare make a sound. The corner at the back of the classroom became a vacuum zone, filled only with Xiao Xinye's heavy, ragged breathing. My shoulder ached terribly, but I just looked at him calmly, watching the shock, anger, humiliation churning in his eyes, and the almost caged ferocity that was intrinsic to his nature, threatening to break free. In my past life, that very ferocity had been directed at me countless times. Worn down by the hardships of our later life together, it was only because he still felt a sense of novelty toward me back then, and because of that ridiculous love acting as a buffer, that it never fully erupted. Now, having torn off this facade of tenderness ahead of time, it was laid bare for all to see. Playing you. I tilted my head slightly, avoiding the scorching breath he was puffing onto my face. What about you is worth me playing? Are you even worthy? You ask me to elope with you. Do you even have the capability? I'll take care of you. You don't believe me, he growled, trying to use volume and lofty promises to overwhelm me and salvage his crumbling pride. I don't believe you, I said softly, yet those 4 words seemed to carry immense weight. Making his eyes flicker for a moment, I paused, my gaze dropping to the hand that was clutching my shoulder, and said coldly, from now on, stay away from me. Don't get in the way of my studying. Studying? He sounded like he'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. Furious, he laughed out loud, though the smile on his face was twisted and ugly. There's only a few days left, damn it. What can you possibly study in that time? Shen Ning, don't you dare be so ungrateful. Besides me, who else would want someone like you? He didn't finish, but the malice in his words, his attempt to put me down so he could lift himself up, was already laid bare before me. If this had been before, I probably would have been devastated, doubting myself. Now, I only found it laughable. I suddenly used all my strength and broke free from his grip. Maybe my words were too shocking. Or maybe he still hadn't fully recovered from the huge shock. He was actually pushed back half a step by me. I didn't look at his distorted face again. Bending down, I picked up my backpack from the floor where it had fallen during the struggle, brushed off the dust, and turned to leave. Shen Ning, stop right there, he roared from behind me, his voice carrying a frantic, threatening edge. I didn't look back. My steps didn't even pause for a moment as I walked straight to my seat. After sitting back down, I took a red pen from my pencil case, spread out that math test paper with a score of 148, fixed my gaze on the steps that had cost me 2 points, and began carefully working through the calculations to correct them. My back was held straight, my attention seemingly completely immersed in the sea of exam questions. The whole world was reduced to the soft rustling of pen tip gliding across paper. I could feel that venomous, snake-like gaze from behind, lingering without shifting away. 3. In the following days, Xiao Xianye, as expected, did not give up. He seemed stubbornly convinced that I was just throwing a temporary tantrum, or had been brainwashed by some toxic positivity. Using this extreme method to get his attention during breaks, he would block the aisle by my seat, trying to talk to me in his usual casual, nonchalant tone. Ning Ning, don't be mad anymore, I'll take you to that hot pot place you love tonight. As for that matter, let's discuss it again. Okay, it can be your call. But don't say things like you won't go. He even tried to take my hand, but I sharply blocked him. With the point of my compass after school, he would follow behind me, walking at just the right distance. I'll take you home. No need, Shen Ning. It's not safe for you to be alone. It's even less safe for you to follow me. His buddies came over to play peacemaker too, grinning as they crowded around me. Sister-in-law, stop messing around with Brother Yi. He's practically turning into a wife-wishing stone. Exactly. Brother Yi is so good to you, thinking about you all the time. I looked up and said calmly, who are you calling sister-in-law? If you call me that again, I'll tell the teacher you're harassing me. The few boys immediately looked awkward, rubbed their noses, and left. Xiao Xianye stood not far away, his face so dark it seemed water could drip from it. He started stuffing things into my hands: expensive imported chocolates, exquisitely packaged jewelry, and even the latest model MP3. For someone who was still just a delinquent back then, those things were absolutely worth a lot. No one knew where he got the money. I shared the chocolates with my desk mate and put the jewelry and MP3 back on his desk untouched. Take it away, Shen Ning. What do you mean? It means you're disturbing me. Also, you don't get something for nothing. His patience was clearly wearing thin at a visibly rapid pace. The ingratiating look in his eyes, along with the faint gentleness, was gradually replaced by irritation and a dark, unrestrained malice. Once, after I ignored the drink he handed me for the third time, he suddenly slammed the bottle to the ground. With a loud bang, the plastic bottle exploded, orange soda splashing everywhere and drawing gasps from the whole class. His chest rose and fell violently as he stared at me fixedly, his expression twisted with menace. I just glanced indifferently at the mess on the floor, then picked up a tissue and wiped away a few drops of sticky liquid that had splashed onto my exercise book, not even frowning. Xiao Xianye, the class monitor couldn't help but stand up. What's wrong with you? You almost splashed me. Get lost. Xiao Xianye didn't even look at the monitor, just spat out the word through gritted teeth, his gaze still locked on me. That look was filled with obsessive possessiveness and the ominous sign of a madness that would destroy what it couldn't have. I closed my exercise book, picked up the English textbook for the next class, stood up, walked around the puddle of filth, and sat down at an empty seat on the other side of the classroom. Never once giving him a direct look the entire time, his fist clenched tightly at his side, the knuckles emitting a faint, cracking sound. I stopped paying attention to any further disturbances from him. All the emotions he tried to force upon me, whether anger, pleading, or veiled threats, were blocked out by me. My world was tiny, reduced to the books on my desk and the countdown on the blackboard. I did practice questions, memorized vocabulary, and organized my wrong answer notebook. My efficiency was astonishingly high. The knowledge points I had once neglected because I was love-struck now came flooding back into focus, and because I had died once, I was free of distractions, my thoughts even clearer and more incisive than in my previous life. When the mock exam results came out, I not only held steady in the top 3 of the grade, but also scored a perfect 100 in math. The homeroom teacher praised me heavily in class, saying I had a stable mindset and was a likely prospect for Tsinghua or Peking University. My classmates' looks toward me gradually changed from their initial curiosity over the gossip to pure admiration and envy. Only Xiao Xianye. Every time I went up on stage to collect my test paper, every time the teacher called on me and praised me, I could feel that gaze from the corner growing colder and darker. He no longer came to find me as often, and he no longer tried to slip things to me. He would just sit silently in his seat, sometimes sleeping, and sometimes staring at me like that, his eyes deep and inscrutable, as if thinking about something. This silence was even more unsettling than his previous rage, like the dead calm before a storm. I knew that the brutality in his bones had never disappeared, it was only lying in wait, biding its time. But I wasn't afraid. I even faintly looked forward to him doing something. After all, who would the teachers believe? A well-behaved girl who devoted herself solely to studying the classics, Or a delinquent who kept making mistakes and smoking, drinking, and fighting? Who will the teachers believe? For at the final mock pep talk meeting before the college entrance exam, the principal spoke personally after the meeting adjourned. The crowd was bustling and noisy. I was walking forward with my head down, looking at my notebook of wrong answers, when my wrist was suddenly grabbed hard from behind. The force was so great that I immediately frowned in pain. Xiao Xianye forcibly dragged me to the stairwell at the end of the corridor, where no one was around for the moment. Shen Ning, he cornered me against the wall, his voice hoarse. Have you had enough? He carried a faint smell of smoke, and in his eyes was a madness suppressed to the extreme. I'll ask you one last time, are you coming with me or not? I lifted my head, met his gaze, and clearly and firmly uttered 2 words, I'm not going. The last glimmer in his eyes went out, leaving only a terrifying darkness. He suddenly raised his hand. I thought he was going to hit me, and my body instinctively went rigid, but instead, that palm slammed hard into the wall beside my ear. Bang! The dull thud echoed through the empty stairwell. He leaned in close to me, so close that our noses were almost touching, his breath scorching hot. I turned my head away to dodge it. Fine, very well. He stared into my eyes and said each word slowly, like a curse. Shen Ning, you better remember this, you'll regret this. If I, Xiao Xianye, can't have it, then no one else will. 5. The college entrance exam countdown reached 1, and Xiao Xianye hadn't bothered me lately, but for some reason, I felt inexplicably restless ever since I got up in the morning. My right eyelid had been twitching nonstop. My pen tip unconsciously scribbled on the scratch paper, and the formulas I wrote down were all wrong. This feeling is very familiar. On the day I died in my previous life, I felt the same kind of unease, as if something bad was about to happen, and today happens to be the anniversary of my death in that past life. The cold rental room, the unstoppable heavy bleeding. This image makes my hands and feet turn cold. Ning Ning, what's wrong? You look so pale, my desk mate asked with concern, gently touching my arm. Are you too nervous? Relax, I'm sure you'll do fine. I forced a smile and shook my head. It's nothing, probably just didn't sleep well. My gaze instinctively drifted toward that corner at the back of the classroom. Xiao Xianye's seat was empty. He hadn't shown up all day. Ever since he was called in for a talk by the homeroom teacher yesterday, his face had been terrifyingly dark when he returned. He didn't pester me after school either, just gave me a distant glance, one that sent a chill deep into my bones. Where did he go? This feeling of things slipping out of control intensified the unease within me. When the school bell rang, I packed my bag much faster than usual. The students encouraged each other, saying see you at the exam hall tomorrow, and gradually left. I took a deep breath and told myself not to scare myself. Everything is different in this life. I am not pregnant, my grades are excellent, my goal is Tsinghua or Peking University, and I have firmly pushed Xiao Xianye away. Stepping out of the school gate, the setting sun cast a warm golden glow over the street. Instead of taking the usual bustling main road, I turned into a narrower alley closer to home, wanting to get back quickly. The alley was deep, with the occasional sound of bicycle bells passing by. When I reached the middle section, sudden, hurried footsteps sounded from behind. My heart tightened, and I turned around abruptly. A handkerchief with a pungent smell was suddenly pressed over my mouth and nose. MMPH. Immense fear instantly seized me. I struggled desperately, kicking and flailing at the person behind me with all my limbs, but their arms clamped around me like iron tongs, their strength astonishingly great. The pungent odor rushed violently into my nostrils, and my consciousness rapidly blurred. The last thing that entered my sight was Xiao Xianye's eyes, bloodshot and filled with madness and despair. My head throbbed heavily, as if struck by a heavy hammer. I opened my eyes and found myself in a completely unfamiliar place. It looked like an abandoned warehouse, the air thick with dust and the smell of mildew. My hands and feet were tied behind my back, and I was thrown onto the cold, stained concrete floor not far away. Xiao Xianye had his back to me, talking on the phone in a suppressed, furious voice. I don't need you to interfere, I'll handle my own affairs. Money, I'll pay it back, 10 times over. Is that good enough for you? Shut up, she's different, He abruptly hung up the phone and slammed it onto the ground with force, the screen shattering instantly. He was gasping for breath, his shoulders rising and falling violently, his whole body on the verge of extreme agitation and losing control. I quietly moved my numb hands and feet, my heart pounding wildly in my chest. Yet my mind was unnervingly clear. He turned around and, seeing that I was awake, a complicated flicker crossed his eyes before being once again swallowed by that obsessive madness. Awake, he walked over, crouched in front of me, and tried to reach out to touch my face. I turned my head away in disgust. His hand froze in midair, and his face darkened even more. Do you hate me that much? His voice was hoarse, carrying a distorted pain. Shen Ning, what exactly is so bad about me? Haven't I treated you well enough? Why are you just refusing to come with me? I looked at him coldly and said nothing. There was no reasoning with a madman. My silence completely enraged him. He suddenly grabbed my shoulders, shook me hard, and growled, "Say something. Have you gone fucking mute? Do you think that once you get into college, you can get rid of me? I'm telling you, dream on. Even if you run to the ends of the earth, you're mine, yours." I finally spoke. My voice was a little hoarse from being scorched by the sedative, yet it was full of mockery. "Xiao Xianya, besides using these despicable tricks, what else can you do? Kidnapping? Is that what you call liking someone? I was forced into this by you." His eyes were bloodshot. "If you had just gone with me obediently, would I have had to do this? Shen Ning, I can't wait any longer. Tomorrow you'll be sitting for the exam, and once you get in, you'll leave. I can't let you leave me." He was rambling incoherently. His logic was a mess. Completely lost in his own paranoid world. "Do you even realize this is a crime?" I tried to awaken a shred of reason in him. "A crime?" He scoffed as if he had heard a joke. "What do I have to fear from a crime? At worst, I'll just swallow my pride, apologize to my dad, and what problem couldn't be smoothed over?" That sentence, like a bolt of lightning, instantly cut through the fog in my mind. Swallow my pride, apologize, smooth over any problem in my previous life, when I was in difficult labor, bleeding profusely in a rented room, in so much pain my consciousness was fading. I grabbed his hand and begged him to take me to the hospital, yet he was frantic because he had no money, and he didn't even dare to call home for help, all because of that ridiculous pride, afraid of being mocked by his family. So there was a way after all. All he had to do was lower his head, admit his mistake, and he could have easily gotten the life-saving money, but he didn't for the sake of his pitiful pride. He watched me die bit by bit in despair and agony. Immense resentment and icy despair instantly overwhelmed me. It felt as if my blood froze in that moment. I bit down hard on my lower lip until I tasted the strong metallic tang of blood, barely suppressing the scream and sob that threatened to burst out. My body began to tremble uncontrollably, the hatred in my eyes almost solidified, threatening to burn a hole right through him. Xiao Yanye grew somewhat unnerved under my gaze, but more than that, he was furious. "What kind of look is that, Xiao Xianya?" I heard my own voice trembling, yet it was unnervingly cold. "Your family is very wealthy, isn't it?" He was taken aback for a moment, his eyes flickering, as if he hadn't expected me to suddenly ask this, and instinctively denied it. "What nonsense are you talking about, isn't it?" I interrupted him, each word seeming to have been dredged up from an ice cellar. "Isn't it true that as long as you lower your head and admit your mistake to that father of yours, you can settle anything, including kidnapping?" His expression remained unchanged, looking down at me from his superior position. "That's right, just a word from my dad." Guessed right, as expected. In my past life, until the moment I died, I always thought he was just a penniless young man with nothing but reckless courage, but it turns out, he was actually a young master from some wealthy family, out here to experience the hardships of the world. How ridiculous I was. Like a complete fool, playing along in his tragic drama and even paying the ultimate price with my life. Just then, outside the warehouse, the piercing sound of police sirens suddenly blared. They grew louder, rapidly closing in and surrounding the area. "Listen up inside, you are surrounded. Release the hostage immediately," the authoritative voice boomed from the loudspeaker. Xiao Xianya froze abruptly, the madness on his face instantly replaced by shock. He looked toward the warehouse door in disbelief, then snapped his head back to stare at me. "You called the police?" he cried out, his voice breaking, his eyes filled with the shock of betrayal and a flicker of panic. "When did you?" I looked at him coldly. Thankfully, having lived this life once before, I had gained an extra measure of vigilance. From the moment I left the school gates, I had set up an emergency police alert shortcut. The moment the police broke down the door, Xiao Xianya was swiftly subdued and handcuffed, struggling. He turned his head and stared fixedly at me, his eyes brimming with resentment and fury. "Ning Ning, just you wait, I won't let this go." His roar was cut off as the police car door slammed shut. Wrapped in a blanket handed to me by an officer, I sat in the police car giving my statement. My body was still trembling slightly, not from fear, but from anger and lingering dread. I knew this wouldn't end so simply. Sure enough, within less than 24 hours, I heard that Xiao Xianya had been taken away by people sent by his family. The so-called kidnapping was ultimately classified as an excessive act in a teenage emotional dispute, not even leaving any criminal record. The Xiao family more powerful than I had imagined. Watching the street scenes flying past outside the car window, I clenched my fingers. 6. The college entrance exam ended quickly, and I walked out of the examination hall. Looking at the bustling traffic on the road, I felt a dazed sensation as if living in a dream. The results came out, and unsurprisingly, they were more than enough for me to step into that dream top-tier university. When filling out my application, I chose a prestigious university in the capital, far from the Xiao family's sphere of influence. Military engineering, a major I loved and one that could offer me protection. I spent the entire holiday working at a chain coffee shop. Keeping busy helps one forget many things, and it was there that I met Zhou Yuan. He was a student from the nearby university district, often coming to the shop to order an Americano. Sitting by the window reading a book or tapping away on his laptop, he was quiet, with gentle eyes and brows. When he smiled, the corners of his eyes drooped slightly, giving off a comfortable, non-threatening vibe. Once, I clumsily knocked over a milk pitcher, scalding the back of my hand. It was he who promptly handed me clean tissues and ice water, gently reminding me to rinse it with cold water first. Later, when he came again, we would occasionally chat a bit about the weather, the books he was reading, and about university life. He knew I was about to go to Beijing for university. His eyes lit up, and he said with a smile, "What a coincidence, I'm at that university too, starting my second year in computer science. Looks like I might run into you on campus occasionally, Junior." His tone was relaxed and natural, carrying just the right amount of surprise, never making one feel burdened. I smiled, not taking it too much to heart. The shadow cast by Xiao Xianye was too deep. I maintained a subconscious vigilance and distance from any male who approached, but it was undeniable that spending time with Zhou Yuan was a rare, gentle respite during that tense period. He didn't disturb me too much, maintaining a comfortable sense of boundaries. Occasionally, he would send me some scenic photos of the campus on social media, or share some tips for freshmen to keep in mind. I would reply politely, but that was all. School started, a new environment, a new life. The shimmering ripples of Weiming Lake, the scent of ink in the library, the sparks of clashing ideas and lectures, all of it made me feel as if a lifetime had passed. I studied hard, joined clubs, ran for class positions, soaking up knowledge and strength like a sponge, trying to completely cover the past with a fulfilling reality. Because I was somewhat good-looking, I had a few suitors, but strangely, within a few days, they would all avoid me like the plague except for Zhou Yuan. He really was at the same school as I was. Since our college and the School of Computer Science had a joint program, we would occasionally run into each other in the academic building or the cafeteria. He would smile and greet me, sometimes casually save me a seat in the library, and offer some technical advice when our group projects ran into difficulties. Plain, gentle, like a glass of water at just the right temperature. I could sense his subtle affection, but I never returned it. The frost-bound barrier in my heart had never truly come down. A year slipped by quietly amid busyness and calm. The name Xiao Xianye seemed to have completely disappeared from my world. Now and then, I would wake from midnight dreams in a cold sweat, but when I saw the familiar dorm room ceiling after waking, my heart would slowly settle down. I almost believed that I had truly escaped that nightmare until that autumn evening. I had just stepped out of the library, arms full of thick books, thinking about attending a lecture by a top expert that evening. A black Bentley Mulsanne pulled up silently beside me. The car window slowly rolled down. A familiar yet unfamiliar profile came into view. The hair was still neatly short, but no longer a striking yellow. It was now a steady black. He wore a finely tailored black suit with a crisp white shirt underneath, the collar impeccably neat. The profile lines are more defined, shedding any youthful softness, leaving only the stern contours of a grown man. He slowly turned his head, his gaze locking precisely onto me. Those eyes were no longer the bloodshot, desperate madness, but a bottomless, dark pool, calm yet exuding a cold, oppressive sense of absolute control. Xiao Xianye. My blood seemed to freeze in an instant, my fingers clutching the books tightened subconsciously, the knuckles turning white. He pushed the car door open and stepped out. He seemed even taller and more imposing than before, standing before me. His shadow almost completely enveloped me. He carried a faint, cool woody scent, replacing the memory of that light mix of tobacco and sweat. "Long time no see, Shen Ning." He spoke, his voice low and mellow, his eyes fixed intently on me like a snake slithering over skin, carrying a cold, sticky sensation. "It seems you've been doing well this past year." I forced myself to stand firm, meeting his unfathomable gaze, and kept my voice as steady as possible. "What are you doing here? Why shouldn't I be here?" He curled his lips slightly into a smile that held no warmth, only a condescending scrutiny. The Xiao family has many businesses in Beijing. Isn't it normal for me, as the heir, to come inspect our own properties, investment? I frowned, the unease in my heart rapidly expanding. Why don't you guess? He took a step forward, his oppressive aura making it almost hard for me to breathe. Where all your suitors have gone. My mind buzzed as if struck by a heavy hammer. He's been secretly watching me all along. You. Tremendous rage and humiliation made my entire body tremble. What exactly do you want? What do I want? He chuckled softly, extending his hand, his icy fingertips almost touching my cheek, which I abruptly dodged. He didn't seem to mind, leisurely withdrawing his hand, yet his gaze was like a cold shackle, firmly locking onto me. A year ago, you left in that manner. I was very displeased. Shen Ning, what I set my eyes on, I have never failed to obtain. His tone was flat, yet it carried an unquestionable, absolutely controlling cruelty. Did you think changing places, changing clothes, you could escape me? He leaned in slightly, coming closer, his cold breath brushing past my ear. Don't be naive. Before, I was too foolish, always thinking of reasoning with you about feelings. Now I understand, some things are far more useful than feelings. For example, power. The last two words were uttered with an almost imperceptible lightness, yet they pierced my heart like venom-tipped needles. At that moment, Zhou Yuan happened to emerge from another door of the library. Seeing me, a gentle smile appeared on his face as he quickly walked towards me. Shen Ning, haven't you gone to the lecture yet? Shall we go together? His words came to an abrupt halt because he saw the imposing Xiao Yenya standing before me, and my face, pale as a sheet of paper. Xiao Yenya slowly straightened up, his gaze sweeping over Zhou Yuan with a casual indifference, as if looking at an insignificant object, even carrying a hint of contemptuous amusement. And who is this? He asked in a flat tone, yet it carried the scrutiny of a master. Zhou Yuan felt somewhat uncomfortable under his gaze but maintained his politeness. I'm Shen Ning's classmate, and you are? Xiao Yenya didn't answer. Instead, he shifted his gaze back to my face, the corner of his lips curling into a cold arc. It seems you haven't been idle this past year either. He took out his phone, casually swiped a few times, then turned the screen toward Zhou Yuan. I saw Zhou Yuan's face instantly turn deathly pale, his pupils constricted sharply, his lips trembled, as if he had seen something utterly terrifying. Xiao Shenya put his phone away and said in a flat tone, offering a friendly reminder, Student Zhou, from the computer science department, talented in programming, many awards, even planning to apply for an exchange program to Stanford, should have a bright future, but the prerequisite is not to touch people you shouldn't. Zhou Yuan's face turned from pale to ashen, and even fine beads of cold sweat seeped out at his temples. He suddenly looked at me, his eyes filled with terror, panic, and a hint of unmistakable retreat and apology. He didn't even dare to glance at Xiao Shenya again. His lips moved a few times, but in the end, he said nothing. Almost stumbling, he turned and hurried away without looking back. The autumn wind swept up fallen leaves, swirling them into the cold air between us. Watching Zhou Yuan's almost fleeing figure, the last faint glimmer of hope in my heart was completely extinguished. Look, Shen Ning, this is reality. Xiao Shenya watched all this with satisfaction, as if casually brushing away a piece of annoying dust. His gaze fell back on me, his deep eyes revealing an almost cruel determination and possessiveness. Now, the nuisance is gone, Shen Ning, we'll take it slow. 7. He began to openly intervene in my life. First, my roommate was switched out for various reasons, and in the end I was assigned to a nearly unoccupied dorm room in a corner. Then rumors that I was money hungry, kept by someone, and clinging to a rich second-generation heir for money began to spread wildly across campus, with vivid details. The eyes of classmates who had once been friendly turned strange, and they started pointing at me behind my back. I tried to explain, but no one believed me, or rather, no one dared to believe me. Xiao Shenya's name alone was an invisible intimidation. He even showed up in front of me out of supposed kindness, and in front of everyone said in a helpless yet indulgent tone, Ning, stop throwing a tantrum, come back with me, I'll give you whatever you want. This confirmed my image as money-hungry and greedy beyond measure. All of my part-time jobs were ruined in one way or another. The cafe owner, under pressure, tactfully let me go, not even daring to settle my final wages. Every single one of my applications for financial aid and scholarships was rejected, each with a bizarre and different reason. Even more devastating, just before one of my crucial professional exams, my study materials and notes vanished without a trace, replaced by cheat sheets discovered in my desk. Despite the lack of direct evidence, I was disqualified from that exam and received a disciplinary record. The professors looked at me with pity and a hint of disapproval, as if saying, this child has gone astray each time. I could feel those cold hands pulling the strings behind the scenes. He didn't harm me directly, but he gradually clipped my wings, squeezed my space, trying to suffocate me, force me to submit, and make me understand that without him, I couldn't take a single step. My classmates gradually distanced themselves from me, their gazes filled with curiosity and wariness. As if I were some kind of untouchable trouble, I gritted my teeth and endured, pouring all my time and energy even more frantically into my studies, especially into that top-secret project group I had accidentally joined. Led by a national treasure-level senior professor, the group's research area was extremely sensitive, involving a cutting-edge theoretical module related to the nation's deep strategic weapons. My entry here was purely by chance, because a certain idea in an unremarkable course paper I wrote during my freshman year caught the eye of this unconventional professor who valued talent above all. Here became my only safe haven. The laboratory had the strictest security and confidentiality protocols. Xiao Xianya's reach, however long, could not yet penetrate the core area for the time being, but I underestimated his madness and the power of the Xiao family. In my junior year, the project entered its most critical phase of theoretical verification. Xiao Xianya seemed to have lost his last shred of patience. A meticulously orchestrated accusation of academic misconduct suddenly descended. An anonymous party submitted several forged yet seemingly irrefutable documents to the university's disciplinary committee and the project team, accusing me of stealing achievements and fabricating data. The accusations were aggressive and harshly worded, although the senior professor defended me staunchly and the core members of the project team knew me well. Under the pressure of the conclusive evidence and unidentified higher-ups, the university decided to suspend me for investigation to mitigate the impact. I was effectively expelled from the laboratory and the campus on that rainy day. As I pulled my suitcase out of the school gate, a black Bentley was already waiting there. Xiao Xianya stood by the car, holding a black umbrella, impeccably dressed in a suit. He looked at my disheveled state, his face devoid of any expression, only a detached air of being in complete control. He dragged me into the car against my will, while everyone around turned a blind eye. I was roughly taken into a room that was lavishly decorated yet chillingly cold. Xiao Xianya loosened his tie, his face no longer showing the impulsive rage of youth, but a more settled, heart-palpitating gloom and desire for control. Shen Ning, you never learn to behave. I have to resort to this method to make you stay by my side obediently. I leaned against the cold marble wall, my stomach churning. He sneered, slowly approaching until his fingertips nearly touched my cheek, but I slapped them away abruptly. He wasn't angered. Instead, he smiled. A smile devoid of warmth, filled only with a cat-and-mouse kind of mockery. Last time, I was careless and let you slip through. That won't happen again. This place is safe enough for us to properly nurture our relationship. He deliberately emphasized the words, cultivate feelings, sending a chill of disgust straight to my core. In the following days, I was kept under house arrest in this gilded cage. The windows were sealed shut, and there was always a guard stationed outside the door. Xiao Xianya didn't appear every day, but he came every week, each time with an air of scrutiny and anticipation, as if waiting for me to break down. To yield, I resisted in silence, searching for any chance to escape, my heart burning with anxiety yet not daring to show a trace of it. Until the third night he entered again, holding an exquisite velvet box in his hand. He opened it. Inside was not jewelry, but a small syringe and a tiny vial of clear liquid. My heart skipped a beat, and a sense of foreboding instantly seized me. You haven't been sleeping well lately, and you're tense, he said calmly, picking up the syringe. He skillfully drew the liquid from the vial, expelling tiny air bubbles from the needle tip, which gleamed coldly. To help you relax. It's good stuff. Many people beg for it and can't even get it. Take it away, I snapped, backing up until my back slammed hard against the wall, with nowhere left to run. Xiao Xianya, how dare you? Why wouldn't I dare? He stepped closer, his eyes filled with a possessive madness and a twisted kind of love. Ning Ning, you're too stubborn, always refusing my kindness. This will make you feel better. It'll help you understand who truly cares for you, who can give you everything you need. Get away, don't touch me. I struggled fiercely, but days of anxiety and little food had left me weak. The maid he brought easily pinned my arms down. Despair and fear washed over me like ice water. It'll be over soon, it won't hurt. He brushed the sweat-dampened hair from my forehead, his movements even gentle. Then, a cool alcohol swab wiped across the skin of my arm. The Next second, a sharp, stinging pain shot through. The needle mercilessly pierced the vein, and that icy liquid was slowly pushed into my body. I stopped struggling, my pupils dilating with extreme terror. He withdrew the needle and signaled for the maid to release me. I collapsed to the floor, futilely trying to press on the injection site, as if that could somehow expel what had already entered my bloodstream. A strange sensation began to spread. After the initial chill came a hollow, floating warmth. My taut nerves seemed to genuinely relax, a false, elusive comfort enveloping me, temporarily pushing the fear and anxiety from my mind. But reason was screaming in madness. I could only desperately resist this feeling. Xiao Xianya crouched down, looking with satisfaction at the uncontrollable, bewildered yet relaxed expression on my face, his fingertips tracing my cheek. "See, isn't that much better?" His voice seemed to come from a faraway place, carrying a seductive tone. "Don't be afraid, I'll give it to you whenever you need it in the future, as long as you stay obediently by my side, you bastard." I struggled to spit out the curse, only to find that even my strength for anger was fading, my voice soft and weak. He chuckled lowly, as if hearing some amusing sweet talk. "Curse away, soon you'll realize that only I can give you this kind of pleasure, you'll become dependent on it, and on me." The days that followed became an endless cycle. That substance was regularly injected into my body. Every act of resistance was met with a more forceful injection, and after each injection, that false sense of pleasure and relief filled me with even greater terror. My body is shamefully adapting to it, even craving it. When I'm sober, I hate my own weakness, obsessively thinking about escape. But when the first signs of withdrawal appear, palpitations, cold sweats, uncontrollable anxiety and cravings, Xiao Xianya and the syringe in his hand become an irresistible temptation. He enjoys this process, relishing my gradually shattering will and the struggle and dependence I can't hide in my eyes. "See how perfect we are for each other," he said once after an injection, stroking my hair, watching my drug-hazed eyes with a tone of morbid satisfaction. "You are mine, after all, inside and out." I lost all sense of time, not knowing how long it had been. Day after day, I was on the verge of collapse. I began to doubt myself. Was I really that terrible? Was I truly unable to leave him? Was my resistance truly meaningless? Occasionally, even beneath his feigned gentleness, a twisted sense of dependency would flicker within me, only to be immediately drowned by overwhelming self-loathing. I stared at the woman in the bathroom mirror, her eyes hollow, her face pale and gaunt, and felt an immense sense of alienation and despair. The thought of suicide clung to me like a persistent, gnawing parasite. Just as I was on the verge of despair, a black sedan with special military plates screeched to a halt in front of the Bentley with an almost aggressive force. Two men in civilian clothes but with ramrod-straight posture and sharp eyes swiftly stepped out of the vehicle and immediately presented their credentials. "National Security Department. Comrade Shen Ning is involved in a critical national project and is required to return with us immediately for questioning." One of them spoke in a cold, hard tone, his gaze sweeping over Xiao Xianya like a bolt of electricity. "Unrelated personnel, please leave immediately." Xiao Xianya's face cracked for the first time. He clearly hadn't expected someone to suddenly appear and spoil his plans, and someone with such an imposing background at that. He tried to negotiate. "I'm her. We don't care who you are." Another man cut him off bluntly, already resting his hand behind his waist, his presence intimidating. "We're taking her away. Any obstruction will be treated as interference with official duties." Xiao Xianya's gaze was terrifyingly dark. He stared at me fixedly, then looked at the two security personnel with powerful auras. In the end, he said nothing more and watched as I was taken away, his expression so gloomy that it was as if he were saying, "This isn't over." I followed the two men into the car almost numbly. I didn't know whether this was another trap, but either way, it was better than falling into Xiao Xianya's hands. I was taken to a base with extremely tight security. It turned out that the project team I was part of was far more important than I had ever imagined, and the key theoretical model I had proposed was proven at the last moment to have groundbreaking value, directly solving a bottleneck that had plagued the team for years. Upon learning of my suspension, the old professor flew into a rage and immediately activated the highest-level emergency reporting channel. With the intervention of national-level forces, the allegations of academic misconduct against me were swiftly and thoroughly investigated, quickly bringing the truth to light and shattering all the false accusations. The pressure exerted by the Xiao family appeared laughable and feeble in the face of genuine national will. After prolonged mental strain, the sudden release of tension caused me to faint. When I regained some consciousness again, I found myself in a completely unfamiliar place. It wasn't a hospital, but a solemn expanse of white, the air thick with the smell of disinfectant and a kind of Repressed calm, my wrists were secured to the bed with soft restraints to keep me from hurting myself. "You're awake." A female doctor in a white uniform, her expression so calm it was almost stern, stood by the bed. "This is a secure isolation unit, Comrade Shen Ning, you're safe now. But the road ahead will be very difficult." Difficult? I managed a bitter smile. Was there anything harder than being in hell soon? I would know what true hell was, the withdrawal symptoms of the first peak period. Like a tsunami, completely engulfed me. That wasn't just pain, it was an amalgamation of thousands upon thousands of agonies. Every muscle was screaming, tearing, convulsing. It felt like ice shards had been poured into the marrow of my bones and then set on fire. Cold sweat instantly soaked through my clothes, only to rapidly turn into a frigid, uncontrollable shiver. Violent abdominal pain and nausea forced me to curl into a tight ball, yet I couldn't vomit anything up, only sour liquid and bile kept surging into my throat. My vision was blurred, my ears filled with a constant buzzing and the sound of my own uncontrollable, agonized moans and even screams. The most terrifying part was the psychological craving. It felt like countless hands were clawing at my heart and brain, a voice screaming insanely that just a little, even the tiniest bit, would instantly free me from this boundless sea of suffering. Xiao Shenya's face, the cold glint of the syringe, flickered uncontrollably before my eyes, tempting me, mocking me. "Kill me, give it to me, please." My consciousness was scattered, tears and snot streaming down my face. I begged without a shred of dignity, banging my head against the soft mattress, my wrists rubbed raw by the restraints. The doctor and nurse held me down expressionlessly, injecting me with sedatives and symptom relief medication, but compared to the extreme agony brought by heroin, it was almost like trying to put out a cart fire with a cup of water. "Endure it, Shen Ning, you must endure it yourself." The female doctor's voice pierced through my chaos, cold and forceful. "No one can do it for you. Think about why you're here. Think about what you need to do." "Why? What do I need to do?" In my muddled brain flashed Xiao Shenya's twisted, smiling face, the coldness and despair on the delivery bed in my past life, the absurd scene of those 10 monks performing rites for me so as not to delay his wedding night. Hatred, that bone-deep hatred almost worn away by the drugs, like a sharp needle, suddenly pierced through the thick fog, bringing a brief moment of clarity. I let out an inhuman howl. I stopped begging and instead mustered all my strength to fight against the physiological torrent trying to destroy my will. Before one wave subsides, another rises. Withdrawal symptoms are not constant, they come in waves. Just when you think you've survived the worst of it, the next, more intense wave is already brewing. For days and nights, I was tossed and turned in this extreme agony. I rapidly wasted away, as if all my vitality had been drained. Moments of clarity became fewer and farther between. Beyond the physical suffering, the mental collapse was equally devastating. Long-term control by the drugs and brainwashing from Xiao Shenya's PUA tactics left my nervous system extremely fragile. Anxiety, depression, hallucinations, paranoia, various psychiatric symptoms took turns appearing. At times, my mood would sink so low I only wanted to die. At other times, panic attacks would strike for no reason, with an overwhelming sense of suffocation. Sometimes I would drift into a daze, feeling as if Xiao Yenya was standing outside the window watching me. Other times, I felt the doctors and nurses were all sent by him to harm me. The psychologist would come every day, patiently guiding me to rebuild my shattered cognition. That wasn't happiness, it was a trap. What he felt for you wasn't love, it was a desire for control and destruction. Your worth does not need to be defined by him. You are brave, you are creating a miracle. During the most painful times, I couldn't hear a single word of these phrases, but in occasional moments of clarity, they were like faint lights, gradually illuminating my pitch-black mental world. The recovery process was long and painful. Sometimes I felt a bit better, but the next second, a subtle trigger could cause an emotional breakdown, and the craving would come surging back. Vomiting, diarrhea, insomnia, and severe muscle pain. These symptoms persisted for weeks before slowly easing. I began attending courses and group therapy sessions at the rehabilitation center, seeing others who were emaciated and had lost their families due to drug abuse, and listening to their stories, made me realize more deeply how close I had once been to complete destruction. The body gradually recovered, but the wounds of the heart would take much longer to heal. I had a physiological fear of that white powder and the syringe, but a morbid craving still lingered. I was afraid of crowds, afraid of trust. Nights were often interrupted by nightmares, filled with Xiao Shenya and that villa, but I survived. The months here felt like rolling through every single layer of the 18 levels of hell. I shed a layer of skin, crawling out of the filthiest mire by sheer force of hatred and a final shred of unwillingness. When I was finally able to walk steadily out of the quarantine zone and stand in the sunlight, the female doctor looked at me and finally revealed a faint smile. "Congratulations, Comrade Shen Ning, you have passed the hardest trial and gained a new life. I know I will repay Xiao Xianya tenfold, 100-fold, for the pain he brought me." 9. After I got out, I joined that project. It was as if I had entered an isolated fortress here. There was only research, data, and a group of exceptionally intelligent, single-minded colleagues. All my talent and accumulated knowledge were utilized to their fullest on this platform. I didn't know how much time had passed outside until one day, the project achieved a major milestone success at the celebration banquet. A high-ranking officer with stars on his shoulders personally awarded me the medal and certificate. He looked at me, his eyes filled with admiration and a hint of complexity. "Comrade Shen Ning, you have rendered great service to the country, but because of this, you have become a target in the eyes of certain forces. To protect you and the achievements, after careful consideration, it has been decided that your identity will be classified at the highest security level, and you will be provided with a new identity and position. You will need to temporarily bid farewell to your past life." I understood this meant that Xiao Xianya, and even the entire Xiao family, would no longer be able to easily reach the person named Shen Ning. I had transformed from an ordinary student they could easily manipulate into an important research scientist protected by the power of the state. I gained a certain level of authority, making it effortless to investigate the Xiao family drug trafficking, tax evasion, human trafficking. Everything the Xiao family did was even darker than I had imagined. The Xiao family's case was handled with swift and decisive action, leaving almost no room for maneuver. As the evidence was solid and its source was special, the Xiao family fell. Xiao Zongye was sentenced to a heavy penalty and sent to a prison known for its extremely strict management, housing serious offenders and special individuals. The once influential eldest son of the Xiao family lost all his halo and protection here. His pride and brutality were no match for absolute violence. On his first day in prison, he was severely taught a lesson by the seasoned inmates in his cell for not knowing the rules, had all his slightly better belongings taken, and was assigned the dirtiest and most exhausting tasks. He tried to resist, only to face even more brutal beatings. The prison guards turned a blind eye to it. As long as no lives were lost, his once proud appearance soon became haggard, with bruises and fear perpetually shadowing his eyes. The eyes that once looked down on others with contempt as if they were ants now only dared to stare at the ground, avoiding any possible eye contact. Physical torment was just one part of it. The withdrawal symptoms from drugs erupted violently after he was imprisoned, but without the relatively humane management and medication relief found in drug rehabilitation centers, he could only curl up on the cold, hard bed, screaming, convulsing, enduring bone-scraping, tendon-pulling agony, losing control of his bowels and bladder, stripped of all dignity. The other inmates merely watched coldly, even taking pleasure in it. "Hey, young Master Xiao, wasn't everything buyable with money? How does it feel now?" Mockery and ridicule were daily occurrences. The psychological devastation was even worse. He had completely fallen from the clouds into the mud, transforming from an abuser into a complete victim. That immense psychological gap and the ever-present fear nearly drove him insane. He began to hallucinate, constantly feeling as if someone was watching him from the shadows, always fearing that some new, terrible torment would strike the next second. He tried to contact the outside world, but all his letters and call requests vanished without a trace. He didn't know that all his external communications were being silently monitored and filtered by some high level authority. Any information that might have sought even a sliver of help was precisely intercepted. He was utterly without hope. During a work session at the prison factory, an accident occurred. A machine malfunctioned and crashed heavily onto his right hand. Despite timely medical intervention, several fingers suffered complete comminuted fractures. Even after they were barely reattached, they permanently lost all flexibility, leaving him with a severe disability and lifelong, excruciating pain. That hand, which had once signed billion-dollar contracts, caressed countless luxury items, and had also forcibly injected me with drugs, was now ruined. The investigation concluded, naturally, that it was an accidental operational error. As for whether someone, driven by old grudges or acting on untraceable instructions, had tampered with things behind the scenes, that remains unknown. After this ordeal, he became even more withdrawn and gloomy, like a startled bird, completely stripped of all his former sharpness and vitality. His body was broken, and his spirit teetered on the brink of collapse. A few years later, the Shao family completely disintegrated, their assets were carved up and exhausted, family members scattered to the winds, and no one remembered him anymore. The heir rotting away in prison. Several more years passed, because of his good behavior in prison, coupled with his severely deteriorated physical and mental condition, deemed no longer a threat to society, he was transferred to a slightly better, but medically resource-poor, psychiatric prison for inmates. There, he spent his days curled up in a corner, his eyes hollow as he gazed at the patch of sky beyond the iron bars, occasionally mumbling fragmented words unconsciously. Ning ning, I was wrong, my hand hurts, let me go. No one understood, and no one cared. He was like a breathing piece of rotten wood, decaying and stinking day after day in a neglected corner, waiting for his life to be naturally and slowly exhausted. He got everything he deserved, a long, hopeless, slowly decaying remainder of life in pain and humiliation. Story 2. My husband's first love showed up at my wedding to disrupt it. I laughed. What a coincidence. My first love also came to disrupt the wedding. Before my husband could react, I had already run away with someone. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The wind was whistling in my ears. I stared at the hand that was tightly holding mine and involuntarily started running with him. Get in the car. The man stuffed me into the passenger seat, and the car started quickly. A bunch of reporters chased after us and were left in the rear view mirror. I stared at his smooth, lined profile, feeling a bit dazed for a moment. Vincent, the Vincent I had a crush on for 6 years in junior high and high school. Why did he show up at my wedding? And why did he take me with him when he ran away? Where do you want to go? Vincent asked. His clear voice penetrated my ears, and it was like fireworks exploded in my mind. Was he talking to me? After 12 years, he was talking to me and even holding my hand. What should I do? I'm so excited. I'm so thrilled. I don't even want to wash my hands from now on. Seeing that I didn't speak for a long time, Vincent thought I was immersed in the grief of the mistress disrupting the wedding and the groom running away. His face darkened, and he stepped on the gas pedal, making the car speed forward. Suddenly, I tightly grabbed the seat belt and forced myself to swallow the scream. Moments later, the car stopped in front of a bar. Vincent opened the car door and said lightly, "Let me buy you a drink." I got out of the car and somewhat awkwardly held the hem of my wedding dress. Would it be too strange for me to enter a bar dressed like this? Vincent took off his coat and put it on me. His eyes reflected a tiny me. You look great. Feeling uncomfortable under his gaze, I quickly walked into the bar. Perhaps it was still early, and there was no one in the bar. Vincent walked to the bar counter, ordered a cocktail, and handed it to me. Wine is the one that relieves worries. 1 glass can solve thousands of sorrows. Drink it, you won't feel sad after drinking it. Me, I'm not sad. The real deal is right in front of me. There's nothing to be sad about losing a substitute, but since it's a drink offered by my male god, how could I not drink it? I picked up the glass and downed it in one gulp. The pungent and slightly sweet taste spread in my mouth. As the drunkenness hit, I tilted my head and took a bite of his cheek. I've made it. I finally kissed my male god in my dream. Before, I only dared to look at him from afar. Whenever I got a little closer, I would flee in a flurry. Vincent straightened me up, and a touch of tenderness flashed in his dark eyes. No, let me teach you. He raised his hand and held the back of my head. Our lips touched, and an overwhelming amount of hormones surged up, making my brain go blank. The morning light was dim, and the window was turning white. I climbed out of bed, rubbing my sore lower back. There was the sound of rushing water in the bathroom. The floor was in a mess, and my wedding dress was beyond recognition. The long, dead memories suddenly started attacking me. Oh my god, I'm worse than a beast. I actually forced myself on my male god. I opened the closet, took out a men's t-shirt and basketball pants, and put them on, looking at the tightly closed bathroom door with a guilty conscience. I opened the door and slipped out. When I got home, I plunged into the bed, hugged the pink leopard, and twisted and rolled in a dramatic way. Ah, what on earth should I do? I stared at my messy hair, covering my face in despair. Stupid legs, why did you run? Doesn't he think that I used him and don't want to take responsibility? Just as I was annoyed, the doorbell rang non-stop. I fixed my messy hair and opened the door with a gloomy face. Seeing the person standing at the door made me even more annoyed. Before I could speak, Max took out a photo and threw it on my head. Julia, you're really something. You cuckolded me on our wedding day. I glanced at it. The photo showed the backs of me and Vincent running away. The shot was pretty good. Max, tell me, when did you start with this bastard? I stuffed the photo into my pocket and retorted, then when did you start with Jane? Max was stunned, looking rather self-righteous. Jane and I are innocent. You saw her faint at that time. What's wrong with me sending her to the hospital? I sneered. There are so many ways to send her to the hospital, but you had to go yourself. Are you brainless or heartless? Max's momentum weakened. Jane was diagnosed with a malignant tumor. The doctor said she only has half a year left. I can't just ignore her. Besides, Jane is dying. You're her sister. Don't you feel the slightest bit sad? I looked at him like he was a fool. Jane and I were daughters swapped by the Jiang family. She was the fake one, and I was the real one. After recognizing our ancestors, she changed her surname to Chiao, and I changed mine to Jiang. Mom couldn't bear to let her go back to the Chiao family to suffer, so she let her live in the Jiang family. But as soon as she saw me, she would be sarcastic and target me secretly. I was often blamed by our parents because of her. Later, after I successfully debuted, I simply moved out of the Jiang family as my fiancé. Max always protected Jane. I was really blind back then to agree to marry him. My brows furrowed tightly, and I raised my hand to close the door. Max quickly blocked the door panel and said eagerly, Julia, I've always loved you, but Jane only has half a year left. After I accompany her through this time, I'll hold a century-old wedding for you again. Okay. It was so disgusting. I pushed him away forcefully. Jane, who came out of the elevator, ran over to support Max. Max turned his head and asked, Jane, why are you here? Jane glanced at me and showed a soft and sweet smile. I was afraid that sister would misunderstand, so I came here to explain. Sister, if you want to blame someone, blame me. In the last days of my life, I want to be accompanied by the person I love. I only have half a year left. Once the time is up, I'll return Max and Mom and Dad to you. Okay. She sounded so pitiful, but I clearly saw a glint of provocation in her eyes. She grabbed my hand, and a sharp pain came from my wrist. I pushed her away. Reflexively, Jane staggered 2 steps and fell to the ground. Max helped her up and looked at me with eyes as cold as a knife. Apologize. Jane tugged at Max's sleeve and said softly, forget it, sister didn't mean it. I occupied her identity for so many years. Whatever she does to me is deserved. Slap. Without warning, I slapped Jane across the face. Max pulled her into his arms and shouted at me, Julia, what are you doing? I shrugged innocently. She said it herself. Whatever I do is deserved. What? Can't take a slap. I slammed the door shut, isolating the 2 oddballs outside. The next day, my agent, Sister Lin, sent me an Instagram video. In the video, I slapped Jane. The stark contrast between the delicate little white flower and the vicious black-hearted lotus directly sparked a war of words in the comment section. Feeling sorry for Jane, she's sick and still gets beaten. Are you shameless? She fainted at someone's wedding and even lured the groom away. If I were in her shoes, I'd beat her to death. It's only because Julia is kind-hearted and only slapped her once. The one who isn't loved is the mistress. The one who made a mistake is clearly the man. If Julia went to the Chin family to make a scene, I might think more highly of her. Bullying Jane isn't something a woman should do. Jane's fans dug out the details of the wedding day. They posted a picture of the backs of me and Vincent, accompanied by an 800-word essay. Everyone reasonably suspected that I had an affair before marriage and was abandoned. I closed the video and checked the hot searches. Sure enough, several topics had gone viral. Julia's wedding storm. Jane is truly miserable. Julia's infidelity. Is there true love in the entertainment industry? Clicking into the last topic, I saw that it was full of the CPs I had hyped up for work over the years. Netizens, with their magnifying glasses, dug out all the male stars I had ever come into contact with and compared their backs with Vincent's, trying to find the truth. However, with comparison comes harm. Netizens criticized the male stars for having short legs, thick waists, flat hairlines, and not curvy enough butts. It was clearly a case of praising one while stepping on the others. Instantly, it drew a wave of hatred towards me. Sister Lin called, and her angry voice almost blew up the phone receiver. How can there be such a shameless person? She was the one who disrupted the wedding first, and she still dared to buy trolls to smear you. Julia, the director of Clear Sky, just called me. The female lead has been replaced, but I've fought for a live, streaming variety show for you. Do you want to consider it? You've set aside half a year for this drama. If you don't go on the variety show, you won't have any exposure in the next half year. I suggest, I'll go. These 2 words successfully silenced Sister Lin's endless chatter. Sister Lin sent me the contract as soon as possible. After I signed it, she directly packed me up and sent me to the airport as if she was afraid that I would go back on my word. I feel like there's a conspiracy. I looked at Sister Lin suspiciously. Sister Lin pressed my head onto the script. Instead of spending time thinking about conspiracies, you'd better think about how to use this variety show to restore your image. I scanned the list of invited guests. they were all popular stars. And there were two mysterious guests. Do you know who the mysterious guests are? Sister Lynn quickly shook her head, denying it 3 times. Damn it, the feeling of a conspiracy is even stronger. The filming base was on a private island. The guests arrived one after another. When the camera captured me walking in with a suitcase, the bullet comments immediately started. Damn, the program crew is up to something, inviting both Jane and Julia at the same time. Aren't they afraid they'll tear each other apart? I bet the mysterious guest is Max. I refuse to watch female. On female competition, I'm out. I looked at Sister Lynn with my eyes asking why Jane was here. Before she could answer, my mom called and said that the wedding incident had a great impact on the Jiang and Qin families. Jane wanted to reconcile with me through the variety show and asked me to take care of my sister. Reconcile? We've never been on good terms since I returned to the Jiang family. If it weren't for the 5 million yuan liquidated damages, I would turn around and leave right now. Until the mysterious guests appeared, I had been huddled in the corner, seriously eating sunflower seeds and listening to the few beauties and handsome guys complimenting each other politely. After 2 helicopters entered the camera, everyone enthusiastically greeted them. I lazily followed behind. The netizens were really accurate. The first mysterious guest was Max. He greeted Jane and then walked towards me with a smile. Julia, this time I put aside all my work to accompany you to participate in the variety show. Don't be angry anymore, Jane also explained. Beside him, Sister Julia, I was wrong before, but I only have half a year left. I hope you can forgive me. As soon as these words were said, the bullet comments sparked a heated discussion. What does Jane mean by only having half a year left? I heard she was diagnosed with a malignant tumor. This is her last variety show before retiring from the entertainment industry. Oh my god, no wonder she fainted at Julia's wedding. So it's understandable that Max left Julia at the wedding to send Jane to the hospital. Moreover, President Qin is willing to put aside his work and come on the variety show to chase his wife. I'm loving it. Netizens praised the affectionate persona that Max had set up. When the camera turned to me, I was looking outside, lost in thought, and my heart was pounding involuntarily. Bullet comments. What's she being arrogant about? If she keeps acting like this, be careful, President Qin won't want her. She'll have nowhere to cry. Cut. Belated affection is cheaper than grass. Our Julia is beautiful and bold. She can live without a man. The camera followed my line of sight, and the fighting fan's tone suddenly changed. An 188 cm tall guy with broad shoulders, a narrow waist, and a god-like face. May I ask what color of sack you like, baby? Wait a minute, my ex-husband is almost buried. I just need 2 more shovels. Yum yum. Thanks to the nut variety show for this feast. Give me 1 minute, I want to know all the information about this man. In the blink of an eye, the financial and entertainment channels were seamlessly connected. The Duan family in City C is a top-tier wealthy family that has been passed down for 100 years in China. The financial news of its heir, Vincent, was dug out by netizens and repeatedly studied. The bullet comments were filled with another wave of Vincent is so handsome and Vincent is so talented. I looked at him from afar. After not seeing him for a few days, he looked colder than before. His suit gave off an abstinent vibe. Unlike the fake enthusiasm just now, everyone excitedly went up to introduce themselves, and even the director ran up eagerly. Vincent nodded slightly as a greeting and then walked inside with a noble air. Unexpectedly, he missed a step, his body tilted forward, and he was about to fall. Hey, watch where you're going. Why are you looking at me? I quickly reached out to support him. Junior, are you okay? Vincent steadied himself, looked up at me, and his cold white face visibly turned red. I was in trouble, but now that I see you, I'm fine. The bullet comments went crazy again. The cold and aloof CEO broke his persona in a second. Brother, please stop looking so eager. Don't you think his back looks a bit like the one of the person who ran away with Julia from the wedding? Remove the bit. When everyone arrived, we drew lots to form teams. Vincent held the number 2 note, grinning from ear to ear. Sister, we both got 2. What a coincidence. The bullet comments burst into laughter. Brother is really controlling the situation. He drew 3 times to get this coincidence. Ha ha ha. I've seen people trying to steal someone's partner, but I've never seen such a hardcore way of doing it. Look, President Qin's face has turned green. Male mistress. Sorry, but I can't scold him with that face. Taking a step back, aren't Max and Jane at fault? Vincent isn't the mistress. Jane has a terminal illness she couldn't control. Fainting at the wedding, what's her fault? Ah, right, she has a terminal illness. Even if she likes to eat shit, it's right. After the teams were formed, the director issued the task cards. Each team member had to cooperate to cook a dish. During dinner, we would evaluate them together, and the team with the highest score would get the right to choose a room first. I was in a team with Vincent, Jane and Max were in a team, and Tony and Mary were in a team. The three teams selected the ingredients they needed and went to the designated place to prepare. I picked up a potato to peel it, but Vincent took it from me. His hands were slightly cool, and the place where our hands touched instantly felt like a fire had been lit. I quickly withdrew my hand. Vincent lowered his eyes, looking affectionate and broken. It was as if I was an irresponsible heartbreaker. Sister, do you hate me? Vaguely seeing the red mark on his collarbone, I looked away guiltily. No. Vincent's dim eyes lit up. If you don't hate me, then you like me, right? Cooking is a rough job that isn't suitable for girls. Sister, you can have some flour tea and rest. I'll finish it soon. Without giving me a chance to refute, Vincent took all the ingredients and left. I watched him busy in the kitchen. Several times I wanted to go up, finish the strawberries. You're not allowed to enter the kitchen until you do. This feeling of being coddled like a child is strange. Before, I was always the one coddling Max. He liked blueberry yam cakes, so I made them for him with my own hands. My hands were itchy and painful because of the allergy, but I didn't cry. However, when I saw the identical blueberry yam cakes in Jane's Instagram moments, I secretly cried all night. When we met again, all he said was, Jane also likes blueberry yam cakes, make one more portion in the future. Now I realize that there's such a big gap between the real thing and the substitute. Pink bubbles popped up in the bullet comments. Netizens joked, the nut variety show owes me a good-looking, rich, and cooking, skilled younger brother. The camera turned to Jane and Max. Max had never been in the kitchen, but he had to pretend in front of the camera. If it weren't for his old man freezing his bank card and ordering him to win Julia back on the variety show and reverse the company's image, he wouldn't come here to endure this. Max glanced at me, leisurely eating strawberries, and was furious inside. He picked up an onion and chopped it haphazardly. Jane wanted to create a hard-working and virtuous persona. She tried hard to hold back her tears and earnestly helped Max, but she couldn't cook either. After all the commotion, the kitchen looked like a battlefield. Finally, the cameraman surrendered first and backed out with the camera. Bullet comments, ha ha ha, feel sorry for the cameraman for 3 seconds. With this level of cooking, he still wants to win back our Julia. The fans won't allow it. The Jiang and Qin families have a marriage contract. When shipping CPs, there should be a limit. Don't lead the rhythm randomly. A little-known fact, Jane is the fake daughter raised by the Jiang family since childhood, and Julia is the real daughter found later, so the person betrothed in the childhood arranged marriage should be Jane, and she should be married into the Qin family. I second that. Compared to the chaos here, Tony and Mary seem to be in a peaceful and idyllic state. At dinner time, the dishes of the three groups were served one after another, and the bullet comments had already started the evaluation in advance. What did the Jane-Max combination make? It's a black mess, and I can't tell what it is at all. When Jane announced the dish name, stir-fried onion, netizens collectively observed 3 seconds of silence for the black, charred onion. Bullet comments, the Tony-Mary combination's dish looks good. It's a deluxe instant noodles with eggs, spinach, and ham sausage as garnishes. It looks delicious. I'm getting hungry just looking at it. When the dishes made by Vincent were served, the bullet comments scrolled rapidly. The task was to make only one dish, but he made 4 dishes and 1 soup. It's unqualified. Send them to my house, and I'll help destroy them. Steamed baby cabbage, braised prawns, sweet and sour fish, and mushrooms stewed with chicken. I suspect these are pre-prepared props. Send them to my house, and I'll help netizens appraise them. Tony swallowed her saliva when she smelled the aroma of the dishes and asked in surprise, so many dishes, did you make them all by yourself? Vincent nodded slightly. Yeah, I was afraid everyone wouldn't have enough to eat. Bullet comments, is it because he was afraid everyone wouldn't have enough to eat, or was he afraid someone in particular wouldn't have enough to eat? Julia, my appetite is not big, don't mention me. Jane looked at me resentfully. Sister Julia, you used to often make blueberry yam cakes for Max, why didn't you make them this time to help Vincent share the workload? Vincent frowned, you're allergic to yams, how could you make blueberry yam cakes? Don't ever hurt yourself for anyone again. My heart skipped a beat. How did he know I'm allergic to yams? Max's face changed slightly after hearing this, and his tone was a bit reproachful. Julia, why didn't you tell me you're allergic to yams? Jane looked aggrieved. I'm sorry, Sister Julia, I didn't know. I looked at them indifferently. The past is in the past. Max, Julia, I Vincent directly stepped between me and Max, interrupting Max's words. Bullet comments, the younger brother is getting anxious, whose vinegar jar has been knocked over. I can smell the sourness coming from my phone. After all the dishes were served, everyone sat down to eat. We start with soup when having a meal. Vincent served me a bowl of soup. I scooped a spoonful and put it in my mouth. The delicious chicken soup flowed into my stomach, making me feel very comfortable. Mary also scooped a spoonful of chicken soup into her mouth and immediately gave Vincent a thumbs up. She ate spoonful after spoonful, and before she knew it, she had finished a bowl. If it weren't for trying to control her weight, she could have had another bowl. The boys didn't have so many concerns. They drank the soup and ate the meat heartily. Vincent was quick-handed. He grabbed the last shrimp, peeled it, and put it in my bowl. Fresh live shrimp. Eat more. After thanking him, I put the shrimp meat in my mouth. The meat was cube bouncy, sweet, and delicious, and I happily squinted my eyes. I've loved shrimp since I was a child, but Max was allergic to seafood, so I hadn't eaten shrimp since dating him. As we got more into the meal, we all raised our glasses. Mary has a straightforward personality and asked directly, Vincent, is your hobby actually cooking? Vincent shook his head. My hobby is making my wife happy. Everyone present was shocked. No one expected Vincent to be so straightforward. After the shock, the fire of gossip burned brightly. Mary smiled wickedly. Who is your wife? Bullet comments, ask more questions if you can. The younger brother is so good at it. The little wolf dog is competitive. No wonder he has a wife. LOL. At first, I thought this variety show was about female-on-female competition, but it turns out to be a chase your wife show. I silently lowered my head, my 10 toes curling like a drill. I felt hot all over. Give me a crack in the ground. Please, give me a crack in the ground. After dinner, the scores were obvious. The stir-fried onion wasn't touched at all. Half of the deluxe instant noodles were left, and all the 4 dishes and 1 soup were eaten up. The director announced that the Julia-Vincent combination won and had the right to choose a room first. Vincent raised his hand, and I cautiously high-fived him, but he held my hand and pulled me inside. This seaside villa has 3 floors. Vincent and I chose the 3rd floor. We can overlook the sea by pulling open the curtains. The Tony-Mary combination chose the 2nd floor. The Jane-Max combination could only live in the nanny's room on the 1st floor. I took my luggage into the room and was putting things away when the door was knocked. I opened the door and frowned when I saw the person. What's the matter? Max said in a gentle tone. Julia, we're a couple. I'm not at ease with you living on the 3rd floor with another man. You go down to the 1st floor and live with me, and let Jane move to the 3rd floor. I rolled my eyes speechlessly. Max, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Our wedding failed, and we didn't get a marriage certificate. What kind of couple are we? Jane looked pitiful. I'm sorry, Sister Julia. I didn't mean to complain to Max about living in the nanny's room. I just want to have good memories in my last variety show. I nodded perfunctorily. Okay, I forgive you. Jane was stunned. The bullet comments went crazy. Jane has a terminal illness. How can you let her live in the nanny's room? So what if it's the nanny's room? Besides being a bit small and not having a sea view, it's 10 times better than the doghouse I live in. Max's face darkened. As her sister, can't you give the room to Jane? Me, sorry, not a chance. Seeing that I wouldn't budge, Max's face turned cold. Julia, there's a limit. Be careful I ignore you. The door of the next room suddenly opened. Vincent leaned against the doorframe, with a smile on his face but a cold aloofness. Sister Jane, don't you only have half a year left? I think an urn would be more suitable for you. How about I buy you a diamond inlaid deluxe one? Jane clenched her fists. You, bullet comments. Ha ha ha, the younger brother has such a sharp tongue. I can't stop laughing. I'm about to get 8-pack abs from laughing. Vincent walked past the 2 of them and came to my side, raising the bottle of red wine in his hand. Sister, I brought a good bottle of wine. Want to have a drink with me? No, you drink it yourself. I slammed the door shut, remembering the wine I drank last time. My heart skipped a beat emotionally. I should take responsibility, but reason tells me not to be self-indulgent. I couldn't even hold on to a substitute. Do I really deserve the real thing? Looking at the waves in the distance, my thoughts gradually returned to high school. Vincent was a popular figure in school. The cold and aloof campus heartthrob. Like most girls, I liked him passionately, but while their passion was shown in their actions, mine was hidden in my heart. When he played basketball on the playground, I would quietly sit by the window and watch him. When he read books in the library, I would quietly sit in the corner and accompany him. Even when I heard his name in a crowd, I would subconsciously look for him. This feeling was very contradictory. I liked watching him, but I was afraid of him noticing me. By accident, I found out that the books he read were the ones I had borrowed. Because of this shared little hobby, I was secretly happy for a long time. Finally, I couldn't help writing a love letter and secretly putting it in the book I borrowed. I thought the letter might be taken by someone else or thrown into the trash by him, but the moment I saw him take out the letter from the book and put it in his school bag, I was as happy as if I had won 5 million in the lottery. After that, every time I saw him, my heart would pound wildly, like a thief whose secret had been discovered. This feeling of embarrassment, anxiety, panic, and helplessness lasted until the end of the college entrance examination. We were like two intersecting lines, gradually drifting apart. Later, I figured it out. Not all unrequited loves can see the light of day. Why should I be an exception? I slept on the sofa in a daze all night. After washing up and going downstairs, the program crew started another task. It was our rapport test. Write down the 3 kinds of breakfast you most want to eat. And the teammates guess each other. The one with the most points wins, and the one with the fewest points is punished. The first group was me and Vincent. When the countdown ended, we simultaneously said our guesses. Me, coffee; Vincent, soy milk. When the answers were revealed, I wrote soy milk, and he also wrote soy milk. 1 right, 1 wrong. The second round, me, sandwich; Vincent, fried dough stick. When the answers were revealed, I wrote fried dough stick, and he also wrote fried dough stick. 1 right, 1 wrong. After 3 rounds, I got all wrong, and Vincent got all right, getting 3 points. Bullet comments: LOL, they clearly know each other's preferences, but the younger brother loves more. The younger brother is all about loving what the other loves. A cold-blooded CEO actually has a lovesick brain. In the next round, for the Tony-Mary combination, Tony and Mary got 4 points among a bunch of diet foods like eggs, corn, and broccoli. They were jokingly called the best diet partners by netizens. In the last round, the Jane-Max combination had full marks in rapport and won a deluxe breakfast gift package, which they could enjoy in the exclusive small garden. Max, like a peacocking male peacock, came over to invite me. Jane's proud face froze for a moment, then she showed a sweet smile. Yes, Sister Julia, you lost the game. Why don't you come over and eat with us? Bullet comments: look, this is Jane's magnanimity. Unlike some people who are reluctant to give up a room, you probably have a misunderstanding of magnanimity. I reasonably suspect they have something going on. After all, only people who often have breakfast together can be so rapport. Are Jane's fans sore losers? Our Julia doesn't care about this bit of food. I refused without thinking. Jane pursed her lips in embarrassment. Max leaned closer to me and said in a low voice, Julia, one should know when to stop. Don't think you can be arrogant just because Vincent is backing you up. When he gets tired of you and you come back to beg me, it'll be too late. Vincent pulled me behind him. Max, you don't need to worry about our business. You might as well take care of your own company if you have time. Max was left speechless. He glared at me and left with Jane. The Tony-Mary combination, as the second place finisher, got 2 exquisitely made diet breakfasts as they wished. It was my and Vincent's turn. The punishment was to drink fermented bean curd juice. I brought it to my lips and took a sip. A sour smell, like that of an old man's armpit fermented in 40-degree weather, rushed to my head. Vincent took my bowl, raised his head, and gulped it down. I looked at him in horror. Don't you think it tastes bad? Vincent wiped his mouth and after holding it in for a long time, only managed to say 2 words, not bad. The bullet comments filled the screen. Ha ha ha, a man can't say no. Why do I feel that the fermented bean curd juice is sweeter than the big meal next door? Has no one noticed that they're using the same bowl? Is this an indirect kiss? Definitely counts. After breakfast, the program crew arranged wakeboarding. Everyone appeared in swimsuits, with a lot of exposed skin and full of hormones. Fans were extremely excited and shouted for their idols. When the camera turned to me, the bullet comments froze for a moment, and someone quietly commented, "This swimsuit is really safe, it doesn't show anything from the neck to the ankles." So pretentious. If you're afraid of showing skin, don't come out to work. What swimsuit to wear is her own freedom. With so much resentment, be careful of getting breast nodules. LOL, what kind of look is that from the younger brother? What, is he afraid she'll catch a cold? Mary rushed up to me, her eyes shining. Sister Julia, this is amazing. The sun protection is top notch. I'll wear something like this next time. Jane stood beside Max. From my angle, I could just see the sarcasm on her face. There was hidden malice in her pure and moving eyes. When everyone was present, the coach explained the surfing skills. Men seemed to have an innate enthusiasm for sports. As soon as the coach finished speaking, Tony couldn't wait to go into the water. He adjusted his posture, knelt on the board halfway, and when the wake formed a slope, he tried to stand up, probably not controlling his balance well. His body suddenly leaned backward, and he fell into the sea. The rescuers quickly went into the water. Tony dived down and shouted in panic, "Don't come over, don't come over." The rescuers thought he was in some kind of emergency and quickly swam over to fish him out. The next second, a bare butt appeared on the screen. Before I could react, Vincent covered my eyes. In my ears were the screams of girls and the unrestrained laughter of boys. A wave of ha 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 passed through the bullet comments. "Brother Yen has really become chicken brother this time. Seriously, how big is his swimming trunks?" A single wave washed them away. "I can feel the embarrassment even through the screen." See, Julia's diving suit was so prescient. Tony put on a new pair of swimming trunks and sat in the corner like a defeated rooster. After netizens had enough of laughing, they somehow felt a bit sorry for him and left comments to comfort him. After Vincent's challenge, it was my turn to go. "Don't be nervous. If you can't stand up, just lie on the board." I smiled at him, took the board, and went into the sea. "Coach, turn it around first, right. Let go of the surfboard, raise your hands, go, look to the right, slide outwards, good, steady, stand up, let go of the backhand first." I slowly stood up following the coach's instructions. The bullet comments scrolled, "Her core strength is so strong, she's so steady on her first surf, she's so talented, it's just for the show, she must have fallen a lot in private." Cut, is it that hard to admit that others are good? I slowly let go of the rope and tried to control my balance. Unexpectedly, the next second, the surfboard suddenly broke. I lost my weight and fell into the sea. The rope wrapped around my foot, and I couldn't swim. I was slapped by the waves several times and hit by the surfboard rolled up by the waves. It hit me so hard that my eyes went black, and I lost consciousness. My head was injured, and I lay in the hospital for 3 days. When I woke up, Vincent's delighted handsome face came into view. My body wanted to sit up, but my consciousness was still stuck in the feeling of powerlessness. When seawater poured into my nose and mouth, Vincent pressed me back onto the bed. "Lie still, don't move around." "The variety show." I spoke, my voice hoarse. Vincent slightly raised the bed, poured a glass of warm water, and fed it to me. Then he said slowly, "There was a major accident, and the variety show has been stopped. What you need to do now is to recover your body as soon as possible. Don't think about anything else, okay?" When he went out with the water bottle, I took out my phone. I saw the push message and clicked in. It was a video of the day I had the accident. Netizens were discussing heatedly in the comment section, comparing the on-site reactions of Vincent and Max. Some people even calculated the impact force of the waves on the surfboard that day and analyzed the cause of the accident from a professional perspective. The comment with the most likes was, "Love is not about grandeur, but in every moment of choice and every subtle action, it blooms with a power beyond words." The video of him jumping into the sea played over and over again on my phone, and my heart was in a mess, evoking many past memories. After sending the love letter, every time I met Vincent, I clearly felt that he was colder. Vincent was 1 grade younger than me, but he was already very tall. Because of his excellence in all aspects, he was used to everyone's attention. Only when my gaze fell on him, he seemed to have a sensor. He would look up coldly and then turn around and leave. After several times, I thought he probably hated that love letter very much. Later, I didn't dare to look at him anymore, although I was sad. After so many years of graduation, those feelings had faded, but he broke into my world again, wrapping me in a nearly fanatical love. Regardless of the result, it seemed that I had fallen. Suddenly, a voice came from my ear, "Sister." I was so scared that I immediately turned off the screen. He sat on the edge of the bed and handed me the poured water and medicine. I took the medicine, lay in bed, and stared at him intently. Vincent obediently picked up a knife to peel an apple. His hand was steady, and the apple peel didn't break at all. He handed the cut apple to my mouth. I blurted out without thinking, "You've changed." He was completely different from the Vincent I knew before. He nodded. "My mom said I can't find a wife if I'm always so aloof." My heart started pounding again, while secretly hinting to myself not to be self-indulgent. I was also looking forward to something. Vincent looked at me directly, with emotions churning in his dark eyes. "Julia, you were the one who provoked me first. This time, I definitely won't give you a chance to renege." I thought of getting drunk last time and my eyes dodged, but Vincent didn't give me a chance to hide. He leaned in front of me, looking at me eagerly, his tone soft and coquettish. "Sister, you wrote me a love letter. Why didn't you respond to my reply?" I was stunned and said in surprise, "When did you reply to me?" A trace of confusion flashed across Vincent's eyes. "When your class had PE. I took the opportunity to go to the classroom and put the letter in your school bag. Didn't you see it? In the school bag, I thought carefully. I really didn't see any letter, but I remembered that during that PE class, Jane had a stomachache and asked to go back to the classroom to rest. Could she have taken it, Vincent? I was very angry at that time. I felt like I was being played. I should have said it in person back then. Why did I write a letter? I held my breath. So, is this why you suddenly hated me? Vincent shook his head. It wasn't hate. I was just young and proud, and my self-esteem was hurt. After you graduated, I regretted it very much. I went to the university you attended and saw you with other boys. I thought countless times that if I had another chance, whether you ignored me or not, I would definitely hold your hand tightly. I reached out and rubbed his fluffy head, muttering to myself, fortunately, you waited. Thanks to Max leaving me on the wedding day, thanks to fate that when we met again, we still liked each other. Love can make one content with just water. Being in love makes one energetic. After lying in the hospital for another day, I felt that my head didn't hurt, I didn't pant, and I was fine everywhere. There was no need to stay any longer. Vincent couldn't resist my pleading and obediently went to handle the discharge procedures. As soon as he left, I turned to Sister Lynn. Don't you have anything to tell me about Vincent? Sister Lynn stubbornly refused to admit. Tell you what, I snorted, if you don't say, I'll change my agent tomorrow. Saying that, I took out my phone and was about to call the company. Seeing that I was serious, Sister Lynn immediately confessed, Julia, actually when you debuted, it was Vincent who found me and asked me to sign you. The matter of you participating in the live streaming variety show was also arranged by Vincent. And he knows everything about you these years. I was stunned. I thought he only intervened in the variety show, but it was all his doing. No wonder I could sign a gold medal agent like Sister Lynn when I debuted. No wonder he showed up in time to help me out at the wedding. I gave Sister Lynn a fierce glare. You traitor. Sister Lynn played nice. Julia, I didn't mean to sell you out. It's just that Vincent offered too much. But how did you find out? I rolled my eyes at her. These 2 days in the hospital, you two seemed very familiar. Do you think I'm stupid? Sister Lynn forced a laugh. She had been careless. After the discharge procedures were completed, Vincent drove me home. My parents from the Jiang family came to the door. My mom took my hand and earnestly hoped that I wouldn't argue with Jane, saying that she was also very pitiful and so on. I was completely confused. Sister Lynn came up to explain to me. After investigation, it was Jane who tampered with the surfboard, and the program crew sued her for intentional injury. My heart instantly turned cold. So they didn't come to care about me. Mom, you used to tell me that those who do wrong should be punished. Then why is Jane an exception? You child. My mom sounded a bit reproachful. Jane changed her surname to Chiao and gave you the marriage with the Qin family. Now she's also sick. She gives in to you everywhere. Can't you forgive her just this once? Did I ask her to give in? My dad angrily scolded me for being ungrateful. And my mom also looked at me disappointedly, thinking of the native eggs that Jane's mom sent me a few days ago. I suddenly felt that these two people in front of me were rather disappointing. Mom and Dad, what you want to do is your business, but I will also protect my legitimate rights and interests. As for the marriage with the Qin family, I don't need her to give it up. I quit. My mom frowned and was about to say something, but she was attracted by Vincent, who came out of the inner room. Are you from the Duan family? What's your relationship with my daughter? My dad immediately put on a shrewd businessman's smile and went up to greet him. Vincent dismissed them with a few words and looked at me worriedly. I leaned on his shoulder, looking at the departing car outside the window, and the suffocating feeling in my heart subsided. I want to leave here. Vincent agreed without thinking, without any plan. It only took half an hour to pack our things, and then we got on the nearest international flight after being out of touch for half a month. When we returned to China, Jane's case had been heard. She was sentenced to 1 year in prison. When she was admitted to prison, Jane had a physical examination, and the medical report showed that she was in good health and had no diseases. Max, knowing that he was deceived, was so angry that he severely injured Jane on the spot and successfully got himself into jail too. At the same time, the project jointly developed by the Jiang and Qin families was reported. The relevant departments launched an investigation and found many quality and financial problems. The project was stopped, all assets were frozen, and under the pressure of public opinion, the stocks of the Jiang and Qin families plummeted, and they were on the verge of bankruptcy. Sister Lynn came to pick us up at the airport. When we got home, she took out a letter for me. I had asked her to help me look for it at the Jiang family before, and unexpectedly, she really found it. I took the letter. She looked at me and then at Vincent with an ambiguous look. I want to sit at the main table when you get married." Then she quickly closed the door and left. Vincent took out the love letter I wrote to him back then. The letter paper had been specially treated, showing that the owner had taken great care of it. In contrast, the letter in my hand looked older. After 12 years, the two letters were finally paired. I slowly opened the blue envelope, and the innocent and a bit cheesy feelings came alive on the paper. "Dear Vincent from Class 3, Grade 2, hello, I'm Julia from Class 7, Grade 3. You surely don't have an impression of me, but I can't forget you. The first time we met was at the milk tea shop at the school gate. You bought the same brown sugar baby fresh milk tea as me. You were standing right next to me at that time. When the clerk asked you what you wanted to drink, you hesitated for a long time and then pointed at me and said, 'The same as this girl's.' Now when I mention it, you surely don't remember, but my heart was pounding like a deer being kicked. I was 2 tenths excited, 3 tenths happy, and 5 tenths nervous. I wanted to pay for you on the spot, but I was afraid you'd think I was frivolous, so I held back. Later, I often met you in the library. I found that the books you borrowed were all the ones I had read. I was very surprised and couldn't help but want to ask you a question. In the future, would you like to be buried with me, Julia?" Dear Julia from Class 7, Grade 3. Seeing the letter is like seeing me. May you be happy when reading this letter. After reading your letter, I think your question is too advanced. Before being buried together, there are many details to be determined. First, we need to consider how many children will participate in the funeral. Second, we need to choose a geomantic treasure land. Confirm the type of funeral, cremation, burial, or other ways you like, and there's also the epitaph, etc. There are so many questions. I'll wait for you at the milk tea shop after school. Let's talk in detail. Vincent. I put down the letter and looked at Vincent seriously, my eyes welling up with tears. "So, would you like to be buried with me?" Vincent lowered his head and kissed me. "I think we should first determine the number of children who will attend the funeral." On the day of the official announcement, my studio posted to Instagram among thousands of people. "I'm lucky to meet you, at Vincent." Attached picture, love letter 1. 1 minute later, Vincent's group responded on Instagram, "Long planned and as I wished," at Julia. Attached picture, love letter 2. Tony and Mary also posted messages on Instagram to send their blessings. In the first place, the CP fans from the variety show went crazy. "Wish you a happy marriage and have a baby soon. This is delicious candy. I'm gobbling it up. Ah, my CP radar is so accurate. This marriage is approved by the third aunt. I'll get out of the way. Push up my lens cannon to celebrate my CP. Click on the video link below. No one dares to say they're the best at shipping CP if I'm second." I curiously clicked on the link. The video automatically played a photo collection of me and Vincent from junior high and high school. The first photo, I was sitting under a tree with a book in my hand, but my eyes were secretly looking at Vincent playing basketball on the playground. The second photo, Vincent was looking at my leaving back and was hit by a ball. The third photo, Vincent was carrying a food tray and passed by me. The dishes on our trays were exactly the same. At the end of the video, it said, "The first photography work is dedicated to you two in love." The video's playback